What did I just watch? I am so sorry for putting you guys through that torture, but if you want to see more of that Spider Man video, the link will be in the description. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to WCB World Cinema Breakdown. And today, me, Utkarsh Raheja, I would love to present to you this new video about the new Spider-Man movie that just came out in the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm a big Marvel fan, and I hope you guys are too. But if you're not, hopefully this movie will help you become one. But before I dive into more of my love for Marvel and Spider-Man and the trailer itself, I hope you enjoyed that little intro, because one thing I can promise you is that of all the videos you've seen on YouTube about this movie, whether it's the trailer or the movie breakdown itself, I promise you none of them begin with Indian Spider-Man going, Spider-Man. But hopefully you enjoy that, and let's continue with the trailer itself. Let's begin. I love Doctor Strange. He's probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite Marvel heroes. But of course, this movie's about this man.
Ever since I got bit by that spider.
And he's really, truly beaten up in this movie, and I think this is the first time we've seen Tom Holland's character this way, and I think that's important for the growth of any character. I just love seeing the Marvel Studios thing pop up.
Wanted everyone to forget the Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
We started.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's what this whole movie's about, right? The spell going along.
From every.
Was that the Green Goblin? Oh, I see the tentacles. Oh my god, Doc Ock. Doc Ock is finally here. Or he's back. Oh my god, well, why are his tentacles red? That's interesting. Oh, some cool classic Spider-Man shots. I like it.
Dr. Otto Octavius.
See, his tentacles are red again.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual
Comic
name?
relief. Okay, gotta love it.
There are others out there. We need to send them back.
Oh,
So,
does he have Doctor Strange's
Scooby-Doo
magic?
this crap.
You know, all this is kind of your mess. I know a couple of magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo this crap.
I love the black suit, by the way.
You're flying out into the darkness
J.K. Simmons.
to fight ghosts.
What do you mean?
They all die.
Spider-Man
Fighting
suit has
Spider-Man.
tentacles now?
It's their fate. I'm sorry, kid.
Yeah, me too.
Don't.
Do we get fighting scenes between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange? That'll be fun.
There isn't. They're a danger to our universe.
You're not gonna take this away from me.
Electro's back too. This is gonna be great.
You're struggling.
Ooh.
Everything you want.
Oh my god, I've been waiting for Green Goblin. He's probably my favorite Spider-Man villain. The Lizard, of course, the Lizard.
I can't save everyone.
That's the Statue of Liberty, isn't it? Let's just casually destroy the entire Statue of Liberty to fight a few villains. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps just watching this trailer. I'm so excited to watch the movie. Oh, it's not done, okay.
They're starting to come through, and I can't stop them.
Oh, wow. Stakes really are real, aren't they?
Exclusively in movie theaters. Tickets on sale November 28th.
Well, okay, so
Spider-Man Day.
we just saw the trailer, and I gotta say I loved it. And I'm not even gonna mention anything more. I'm just gonna go into the movie. I'm about to go watch it with some of my friends later tonight, and I'm super excited. I'll see you guys on the other side. See ya. And I'm back. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this movie, because as I mentioned, I just watched this movie with some of my friends, and I've been meaning to watch this for so long because, as I said before, I'm a big Marvel fan, Marvel buff rather. But Spider-Man is not one of my favorite characters, if I'm being honest. But the more I watched this movie, enjoyed it, I think I'm looking forward to the future Spider-Man movies now, especially because of how well done this movie was. While, of course, it had some of its flaws, as most Marvel movies do, but I'm going to leave that for later. But going back to the review for a second, this is going to be the non-spoiler section, and as I mentioned in my previous videos, every video from now on is going to have a non-spoiler, and then later on a spoiler section. But don't worry, I'll make it very clear when the spoiler section is about to begin. But proceeding further with the non-spoiler review, I mean, wow, this was not only just a movie, this was an experience. And if you've seen a Marvel movie, in a theater right after it comes out, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, because the entire crowd just starts clapping and cheering and just going wild in certain moments. And of course, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil those moments for now. But talking about just the feel of the movie, it almost had this, Infinity War-esque type of vibe and feel, because, of course it wasn't Avengers, blah, 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 but it almost felt like a bunch of Spider-Men coming together. And I'm not really spoiling that, because if you've seen the trailer or heard the rumors, everybody already knows there's multiple Spider-Men fighting their old foes. But I think that whole concept is really cool, because who doesn't like a revival of an old character? And some of these characters, they really did a good job with them, the way that they were brought back and so on and so forth. But just talking about Spider-Man, this is such a great time to be a Spider-Man fan, because not only has Sony renewed a new deal with Marvel for another 3-film trilogy with Tom Holland and his character Spider-Man going forward, but also, I'm sure many of you have also seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and the second movie for that is about to come up. And to all my fellow Desi people, I'm sure you're excited, because one of the main Spider-Man in that animated movie is going to be an Indian Spider-Man, Pavitra Prabhakar, so that's definitely going to be fun. But moving on from the future of Spider-Man, let's talk more about this movie. And I really must say that it's a must-watch, great watch, definitely much better than some of the other Marvel movies that have been coming out lately, like Black Widow or Eternals. This is definitely beyond much better than both of those, I would say. It's really hard for me to compare it to Shang-Chi, so I'm not going to do that, but I must say there have been a few Marvel movies lately that have been kind of on a decline, but I think this is a great job, and so is Shang-Chi. And, I think, as I already mentioned, a lot of the previous Spider-Man foes were brought back from the Andrew Garfield movies and Tobey Maguire movies, and that was just so fascinating, because every time a new character would come back, the entire crowd would go wild and just start clapping. And, another thing I loved about this movie, I'm not going to get too into it, was the fact that the so-called foes, or the bad guys, they weren't necessarily portrayed as bad guys throughout the movie, which is just fun, because it's always, interesting to humanize a character, because nobody is just pure evil or pure good. That's just not a thing that exists. So that was really cool to see. Oh, and another thing that I have to touch on is the presence of Doctor Strange. While he wasn't one of the main characters, I would say he just kept coming in and out. I just love that, because to me personally, Doctor Strange is one of the coolest Marvel heroes, because he's so widely different from most of the heroes we have in the MCU. His powers are so probably, like, it's hard to describe, because at times we see them being so powerful, and he's just able to do almost anything he wants, because just magic and spells and things of that nature. But it's just so cool. Especially the cinematography in the scenes that would include Doctor Strange is so cool, because of the whole, magic aspect. But with respect to some of the issues, there were a few logic issues, continuity issues, some things left up in the air as to, why is certain something happening, or why is something not allowed in this movie that had happened in a prior movie. But again, we'll just touch up on that later, no big deal. But, I think I've said as much as I possibly can without really spoiling anything. So this is the moment I'm going to say, if you haven't seen the movie, please hit pause on the video, or just close it and, go watch it with your friends, family, whomever, and just go enjoy this movie, because I think it's definitely a great watch. So once you've come back and seen the movie, then please watch the rest of the video. And so, final warning, spoiler section is about to begin. Alright, so let's just get right into the spoiler section. As I mentioned before, Doctor Strange is one of my favorite characters, and to be honest, this whole movie, I could talk so much about it, because I've seen interviews from the directors, from Tom Holland, Zendaya, all these different people. So there's so many cool things that I know that happened behind the scenes, but I do want to keep the video short. I don't want it to get too boring, so I'm just going to touch up on some of the cool things that drew my attention, or just some of my thoughts. But going back to Doctor Strange for a second, as I mentioned before, I really like his character and what he brings to the table. So the fight scenes we saw with him and Spider-Man, and Peter, were just excellent, and him and Tom Holland had this kind of funny chemistry. Like, it was standoffish at times, but also funny, and there's a clear chemistry there for sure. So I think the way though that the relationship was handled throughout was pretty good, because by the end of it, you can almost see Doctor Strange being sad, and he's not known to be that kind of character that just displays emotion openly like that. And even at the end, he did it in his own way. He didn't outright show emotion, but that was really cool. And one last thing about Doctor Strange, I just love it when in his movies we see such cool shots because of the magic aspect, mainly the mirror dimension. And I think a use of the mirror dimension was excellent in this movie, and the way they just did that whole fight was really cool. But going just one last thing about Doctor Strange before I get into Doc Ock or some of those cool foes that come back is that I just love the way that the spell scene was done. The one that we already saw in the trailer where the spell goes wrong, because it was comedic and it almost like it fit into the story. It didn't seem like something just to drive the plot forward. It seemed to actually fit within the storyline, though it was kind of confusing as to what powers does Doctor Strange have? Like, what's the extent of his powers? Because in past movies, he's done such crazy things like wiping people's memories out, or just vanishing people, honestly. So where do his powers kind of like even draw a line? Because if he's able to do all those things, how does he mess this up? And why can he not control this mess that is created eventually? But like I said, there's going to be some logic errors here and there, and I'm sure we can go on Reddit or those websites and somebody will have some sort of justification and it'll all make sense. But even if it doesn't, it's a Marvel movie. You're here for the fun. You're here for the claps, the cheers, the emotion, and all of that was there. So I'm going to move on from Doctor Strange for a second and hit up on, some of the returning characters like Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Lizard, and the Sandman. Sorry. But I think 3 of these 5 villains that I mentioned here, I think 3 of them were handled excellently. Doc Ock, Electro, and of course Green Goblin. Those 3 were almost humanized. And I think it's important to humanize a bad guy because, as I said before, there is no black or white, and there's a lot of gray. And those characters fall right into that gray. And it was cool to see the kind of closure their characters got from their prior original Spider-Man movies. And while those 3 characters were definitely the standout of the 5, I think Sandman and Lizard were just terribly done. And what I mean by that is they looked cool, their effects were cool, they had very little dialogue, they had very little growth. So I think it was a missed opportunity with respect to the character arcs or just those 2 characters in general, because nothing more was brought to the table from the prior movies. And the Lizard is already spoken about as one of the worst Spider-Man villains. And I think this movie did not do anything to help that narrative. And, before I move on from the villains and, start talking about the 3 Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, one last thing I want to touch up on with respect to the villains is I just love the acting of course, Green Goblin, because, I have a personal bias there because I think not only is that man a great actor, but I think that in my opinion, that's the coolest Spider-Man villain. And, of course, Doc Ock is right up there as well, but I personally just enjoy Green Goblin more. And maybe it's just his acting style, but I thought it was really cool the way it was done, because you felt bad for him, but then he was also so scary to the point where, like, at times you would hate him. And that's just exactly what the audience should feel. So I think that was handled really well. And, of course, his acting chops were definitely evident. And I think, besides the 3 main Spider-Men, I think he stole the show with respect to all the villains, or the side characters, so to speak. But now touching up on the 3 Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, their chemistry was excellent. The scenes with those 3, by far the best part of the movie, because there was just unexpected comic relief after comic relief after comic relief, with a lot of serious moments thrown in as well. Because their chemistry was so great, and their so-called bromance was evident throughout. And especially, watching Andrew Garfield and some of the hate he has gotten for his portrayal of Spider-Man in the past, this almost felt like a closure for him, because there were funny lines where he felt inferior to the other 2 Spider-Men, and there was even that amazing scene where he finally gets to save MJ. Tom Holland's MJ, but he gets to save MJ, and the entire crowd in the movie theater just started clapping like crazy, because that was his moment of redemption. That's something he was not able to do for his own love within his movie, but this is a chance where he kind of got to do it right, so to speak. So I think that closure for him was definitely more something for the audience, but I think everyone loved it, and like I said, the experience was unreal when everyone just started clapping. But speaking of the clapping, another scene where people were just dying laughing or just clapping was, when these 2 even appear on accident, so to speak, when Ned is trying to use the magic and doing the little circle thing, and then both of them appear one at a time. Everybody just started clapping, because it's been so many years, even decades, since we've seen both of these in action as Spider-Man. So I think that was really cool. And another thing I want to touch up on with respect to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield is, of course, they were excellent in what they did because they've already done this before. They already have a support base. But I think beyond being cool and saying funny lines and just being, the action hero, one thing that really that I really enjoyed were two or three of the scenes where they see that Tom Holland is in pain, and you've seen the movie by now, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Aunt May dies, and her death is something I'm going to touch up on right after this. But because of that, Tom Holland is in pain, and he has not felt this kind of pain or turmoil in his life in the entire MCU so far, I would say. In his previous two movies, the stakes were not as high, the pain was not as bad, but this time it is. And the other two Spider-Men see that, and they've been in his shoes. So when they're giving him advice, that was very meaningful and touching because they were telling him about how they deal with grief. And that's important because superheroes are often just portrayed as, oh, they can handle anything and everything. But at the end of the day, Spider-Man is not an alien. He's not some god. He is just a human with powers. So it was cool to see that they were open about the grief that they have been dealing with and the way they've had to really overcome it and the advice they were giving Tom Holland and to not make the mistakes that they did. And, that was pretty cool at the end where they're able to stop him from getting revenge and just murdering him, which was definitely cool. But getting back to the Aunt May death, I think that scene was really well done by Marvel because personally speaking, I think some of the last movies, while they've been grand and amazing in the MCU, some of the deaths have not been handled correctly. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's take Natasha Romanoff's death, Black Widow's death, for example. That's supposed to be a huge death, right? We're supposed to feel so upset and bad and just cry, but I didn't feel that. Because I felt the way the scene was handled, I didn't feel that pain as much as maybe even Gamora's death in that movie. But I think the way Aunt May's death is portrayed and the way it's led up to and then the reaction Peter has to it, I think that was excellent, and it truly made you feel bad for Peter, and that's something I don't think every death in Marvel has done. So I think they've definitely improved upon that, and I don't know if it's because of their past failures or what the case is, but they definitely hit that right. Now, but before I jump to the two final end credit scenes, which I'm sure all of you are excited about, and if you didn't sit through both of them, you're not a true Marvel fan. You gotta sit through them because, these days there's usually two end credit scenes. You just have to sit through it, and I promise you it'll be worth your while. But before I jump into those, let's talk about Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jacob. Obviously the three main best friends that this movie sort of, caters to and revolves around. I think their friendship just, of course they're actors at the end of the day, but I think their chemistry has grown so much because, even off the sets, they've become such good friends, and that's evident within their acting because the more movies they're doing together, it just seems like they're fitting in so well. And honestly, it feels like Tom Holland's time in his year because he's just coming out with these bangers. And I mean, his next movie, for example, is going to be another big budget blockbuster, probably a blockbuster, is the Uncharted movie, and it's based on a video game, PS3, PS4 video game, and I myself am a big Uncharted fan. So most likely I'm probably going to do a video on that. Do I have high expectations from it? We'll see, because it's really tough to do movies on video games, especially when they're this high budget, but we'll see. It's two famous people, but just because it's famous people doesn't mean it's going to be amazing, but we'll see. I'm excited for that, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But ending off the video with the end credit scenes, the first scene was really cool because this was about Venom, and initially when I saw it, it didn't even click in my mind because I haven't seen the Venom movies. But you hear the main character's name, Eddie, and then you see that little black particle moving around, and that was really cool because what this essentially means is that Venom will now be a part of MCU, or Eddie and Venom both will be a part of MCU, or in some shape or form, maybe in a future Marvel movie, or maybe in a Spider-Man trilogy movie. We'll see. But I'm really excited for that because after seeing this, I'm probably gonna watch the Venom movie, because I've heard a lot of good things about it, and especially about Carnage, but I don't want to watch Carnage before I watch Venom, so I'm probably going to get more into Venom because of this end scene, or this end credit scene alone, to be honest. But talking about the two trailers that were shown, the Morbius trailer, which seems really cool, I don't know enough about it to comment on it, besides that it looked really, really cool, because it looks so different than some of the Marvel movies that we've already seen, because some of them, this one included, seemed a little cookie cutter at times, a little cliche. There were a lot of things we've already seen in other superhero movies, but the Morbius one just looks really different because it's not a traditional superhero. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch that trailer. But ending it off with the final end scene, which was essentially the trailer to the next Doctor Strange movie. And I'm really looking forward to that because that really takes the concept of multiverse much further within the realm of the MCU, because with the recent shows like What If or Loki, and then this movie, for example, or even WandaVision, the concept of manipulating time and multiverses has really been touched upon, all to lead up to this next Doctor Strange movie. And that was really cool because beyond just the multiverse stuff, we saw a glimpse of the bad Doctor Strange, which I think is known as Strange Supreme, from what I recall. But we're gonna see Doctor Strange maybe fight himself. So maybe it'll be Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange, or maybe just the original one becomes bad, or if he's just from another multiverse. We'll see. We'll have to wait and watch, and I'm excited for that because, as I mentioned, Doctor Strange is one of those unique characters, and he's not traditional in any sense, which I definitely enjoy because I don't like the same cliche, robotic era, the same story all the time type of stuff. And Doctor Strange is definitely not that. So I've spoken plenty, and to be honest, I could probably keep going, but I'm going to stop because I don't want to bore you guys too much. But I'm just going to end it off on thanking you guys for your time. And of course, as usual, I'm going to end with the rating that I'm going to give this movie. Now, you do have to keep in mind that I'm a Marvel fan, so a little tinge of that is going to be within the rating. I'm going to try not to be biased, but, it's just human nature. I love Marvel. What can I say? This will probably have to be... I was confused between an 8 and 8.5. But in terms of 8 and 8.5, it'll probably have to be 8.5 because, like I said, I'm a Marvel fan, so it is what it is. 8.5 out of 10. So far, I've reviewed 3 movies. One of them was 7, one was 8, and this is 8.5. So, is this the best movie of the 3? I don't know. Maybe you can let me know. But I definitely enjoyed this the most, and it's probably because of Marvel. But I'm just excited to watch not only the future Spider-Man trilogy and Into the Spider-Verse, which will have the Indian Spider-Man, but also the next Doctor Strange movie. So I'll probably be doing videos on those too, and I'm sure you guys will watch them, or you better watch them, I hope. But thank you again, and I hope you like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace out. Bye-bye.